Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Remember Skies of Arcadia. We're at the end of the game, and depending on how long certain fights take, we will either play through everything, or we will split this episode in two. But this is our final I'm having trouble talking, our final encounter with Ramirez. Or this is us heading into the final sequence of boss encounters. Things will sort of spiral from here, even the scenario building upon itself. And right at the bottom, where Zelos is, we have Ramirez. Utterly heartbroken, which makes him relatable in as we've established in a way that's surprising. His devotion to Galcian, sort of affecting in its own way. His sort of unbridled rage at everything really taking a forefront here. Lord Galcian was the only man fit to rule this pathetic world. And he believes this entirely, too, right? He was the only man capable of saving these fools from their wretched existence. To him, Galcian was a liberator figure, almost some sort of messiah, and we killed him.
Die!
And so, now we get to fight a fantastic boss fight. And the sequence of events that builds from here is just really great. I think as a final encounter, the sequence of bosses that we are going to fight really has a nice feeling to it. We have some strong music again, and we are just going to sort of build up and attack. So we want to sort of the one thing that we can do. Actually, no, I'm thinking about the battle in the long term, so we actually want to buff Vise. And then just have him and Enrique attack. Aika use Delta Shield to save us from any insta-death nastiness. And go from there. I think this space as a final battle space is really great. Silver Eclipse, another amazing skill that we saw earlier in the game. We're going to see more. We might see Silver Tundra and other things. Really great skills. I think the people who designed these animations deserve a really big pat on the back, and I feel incredibly guilty that I've not really sat down and familiarized myself with all of the people involved in the construction of this game. Because they are certainly a team who worked very effectively together. And so our big oh, that's right, because I used the thing. I'm dumb. So our big challenge here is actually just making sure that we're healed and we're okay. So we can actually just use Sacrum Crystals. And it's tempting to use just the shield, but we might use that later on in the battle. For now, we want to get in some initial damage and go from there. And hopefully Drillnose won't hit Vise, but it probably will with my luck, and we'll take it from there. A lot of this is sort of navigating spaces. Oh, it hit the entire party. That's a shame. So maybe we'll cure that. But even using Drillnose, it's a pretty powerful attack. We're doing nearly 5 times the damage of of Enrique. Enrique does about 100 something. We're doing 500 something. It's kind of nice. If we can do this in time, this would be amazing. So let's try it. And we'll keep Enrique will actually focus this time. I'm thinking a lot about my sort of strategies out loud here. I wish I had a lot more to say about final boss encounters in games. I think you have one of two problems with boss encounters. They tend to either be underwhelming, or they tend to be too long. Lunar Blessing, his version.
Give me your blessing.
Skies of Arcadia sort of faces the problem of too long, but that's because the next boss after this is a fairly long boss. And we'll see that when it comes. So I don't think that it's quite as much of a marathon as it could be, but I do think that this game splits the difference fairly well, but I think there are a couple games that have a nicer pace near the end in terms of their final boss encounter. A surprising example of this is actually, believe it or not, Final Fantasy XII. The sequence of fights with Vayne are actually pretty good in their pacing. But that's also because they run semi-automatically, like the battle system in that game being what it is. If I use Lunar Winds, that should get rid of his beneficial effects, so that's what we're going to do. You don't use that attack too much because only so many characters buff themselves or use regen on themselves. In this case, regen on Ramirez is sort of a pain. Destruction. It's a decent animated attack. This will hit everybody. We'll see how much damage it does. I don't think anybody will get hit for over 1,000. No, but still get hit fairly hard. But those are meager hits compared to what they could be. Silver Eclipse is the real problematic one. The reason he used Destruction was to get rid of Increm. That's what his AI is doing at the very least. And so now that we're at this point, he'll probably try to do Silver Eclipse again. You can sort of predict and manipulate parts of this battle. You don't need to worry too much about doing that, but it's certainly something you can do. Justice Shield, because I think he might use Silver Eclipse again. Silver Tundra is the other one, but I don't know how often he uses it. You can actually go through the entire battle and he'll never use it. The final battle will be interesting indeed. Eternum. Oh, poop. So that might hit him. Will it hit? It did. We have Ryslem though.
Let's try this.
So I might as well just have Aika use Delta Shield a lot. But this will do about 7k. A decent amount, so like 1 or 2 more of those. And we still have the Ryslem box that hasn't broken. It'll probably break on this turn. Like I said, I'm just narrating my way through here. But there are issues that you can have with games having sort of bosses that go on far too long.
That helped.
One that actually feels longer than it probably is the Smithy fight of Super Mario RPG. That one can actually feel deceptively long. But that's largely because the lead up to that battle is also long. Going through the factory there is a long process. That should be exactly the right amount. And we'll just sort of have to take it on good faith that he won't use Eternum. But we can bounce back from that fairly quickly if he does. Alright, there we go.
Where there is light, there is darkness.
So I'm comfortable with this.
Sword of the Dark Moon.
Another example of a game where getting to the final boss is actually a huge annoyance is Planescape Torment. A lot of really cool stuff happens in that part of the game when you're in the Fortress of Regret, or I think that's what it's called. I always forget. I shouldn't forget, but I'm thinking about Skies of Arcadia more than anything. But there can still be a lot of shades that you have to fight, and depending on how things are, it can be a long process. Alright, so that fight took us about 10 minutes. So that's not too bad. But there's still more to come. And the next one will take a little while. So we might split into two, but I don't know. We'll see. Because Ramirez still has some tricks up his sleeve. This is definitely a suitably well-structured climax in terms of the way it escalates. And he's almost a tragic character in the sense that his rage just totally consumes him. And so he is going to summon Zelos. Sacrifice his life in order to awaken the dangerous Silver Gigas. I sort of like the design of Zelos. I like the imagery of him sort of getting pulled into the silver there, and it just expands and breaks outwards. Grendel still remains the most impressively designed Gigas by my estimation, but I think that Zelos is interesting because it's surprisingly simple, but that simplicity still manages to present a certain genuine sort of dread. It's just like this giant crazed power, like sphere of destruction, and it morphs and sort of can do all sorts of stuff. So we have to attack while it's forming, otherwise it will be invincible. So again, some framing for the battle of really contextualizing it and saying, you know, this is our last chance, otherwise this thing will rage and ravage across the world. And I think that's part of why it's so scary. Just like this simple looking thing that will just devastate everything. And it has a nice musical cue and everything. Another surprisingly good use of a tilted angle there. So we'll maintain distance for a minute. Just because it gives me time to build up our spirit and get to where we want to go. So we don't want that yet. I don't know if that's a waste of rudder grease, but I want to try using it at the beginning of a battle. And maybe it will carry over into the next turn. It feels funny to use rudder. I mean, I guess what you would do is you would use the grease at the beginning of the turn, and that would mitigate the amount of spirit points that you're spending, but perhaps it will carry over. So it uses magic. It's going to hit us before I can buff, which is an annoyance, but we can cure that. But again, this is another case of properly framing an encounter as well. The darkness, the music, the sort of ruins of Soltis below us. The game almost consistently does a very good job of presenting us with enemies and encounters that are very, very well contextualized and presented. Now, the Delphinus is a tough as hell ship, so I'm not too worried, but we'll sort of deal with things from here. And I think actually we will cut things after this. So attacking from the front is what we can do, and we'll get in a nice amount of damage, but can we not use Curia in... Well, that's sort of a bummer. So instead we will set up for a big hit if we can. And I don't know if the X cannon is stronger. You would think so from the spirit cost, but we're just going to use this turn to unload. Obviously we want some Moonstone Cannon in there, but that won't happen for a while. But there's something, I think, certainly discomforting about the way that Zelos sort of just follows you around and just exists, this sort of eye of judgment made real. And once it sort of sheds its outer layer and becomes something a little bit more, it's definitely noteworthy. Having some artifacting there with the magic, unfortunately. But you can see it's sort of a tough fight. It's more of a battle of attrition than anything else. And we try and manage, and we try and get in our big hits. The X cannon does a fair amount of damage, though, so it actually is more powerful than I thought, so that's okay. So this is definitely the most bloated part of the final boss encounter. Like I said, presented very well. It tends to be something that the game handles very well, but it's just not quite what you would sort of want it to be. So actually, complete kit, and we'll get to use some other stuff at the beginning of the next turn. We'll probably buff and go from there. Like I said, by now there's only so many deep things I can say about the game. It's more just, here's the encounters, here's what's going on, and let's sort of experience these things together. I think there's an immense value in that, and we'll talk certainly at the end of the game about things. The stakes feel very great, though. You know, we're sort of the only people that can stand up to this basically just crazy, uncaring... Like, the thing I like about Zelos' design is that, and you'll see some more shifts in it, is that it's just this really alien thing. It's like vaguely technological, but it's also just really basic. And it just watches you and follows you, and I think there's something sort of legitimately disconcerting about that in a boss. Just following you and things like that. I think it's very interesting. And you can see now we're going to have a change. I wonder if it is now. So we attack from the front, and we want Moonstone Cannon action. Oh no, actually, believe it or not, we want to do this. Although it's not really believe it or not, it makes perfect sense. Right, and then we use our complete kit at the end, and so that's a nice feeling turn right there. So we're slowing it down, we're making progress. And that is one thing I do like about Skies of Arcadia's boss fights, is that when you're making progress, it feels like you're making progress because the game reacts to it. Whether that's just the music shifting a little bit, or sort of the behaviors of the creatures adjusting, or new tactical options being available to you. Extended encounters definitely feel like there are steps to them. And so we'll see how well we do here. Hopefully we do okay. Not bad. So we're definitely making progress. It's tricky. I'm so engrossed and sort of taken in by the fight that I'm sitting here and just focusing on it. This is a gauntlet of a battle. It really is. It's a lot of focus. It's a lot of just going for it. And as we've established, Zelos is this shifting creature, so it was like a chrysalis before, and now it breaks out into this very strange form. Play it safe and keep our distance. Very good. So defense. And then, how far can this moon torpedo go? Only 3, but we can get it in on a critical round, so I feel good about that. Right? But great moon ray. Like, everything builds up and changes. And there's just this very powerful creature, even though, like, oh, it only hit us for so much, but it's like, it's the shift in the creature and sort of what it all represents, and so you know, this really shape-shifty bizarre creature, Drillnos, Electrolyme. But it can get off all these magic attacks pretty quickly, and so that can overwhelm you if you're not suitably careful. But I definitely like the feeling of this encounter. I just wish that maybe the HP pool wasn't so high. I think, you know, I've never been in too much of a position in ship battles whenever I played this game where I'm actually at risk of dying. Ship battles just tend to be this thing that are time-consuming. Although they're really fun. I think they're fun, but they do demand a large amount of time, you know, for an encounter. This is going to take us a lot more than fighting Ramirez did. But here we can finally try and get in some more power. So it's like, you know, we take the risk and we do Increm there, and we complete kit. Like, it all, there's a certain general logic to it. You sort of have a strong feel for the grid system by now. The problem is that it's just to build up to those attack rounds that have actual significance. It just takes a little while. It's like I said for earlier battles. It's contract, and then expand. But that can seem a little time-consuming, a little anticlimactic in some ways, particularly this late in the game. Especially when you have access to things like, you know, complete kits and such powerful weaponry and all sorts of things. It just doesn't, you know, like, that's a strong hit right there. So, you know, you're sort of circling the wagons a little bit, and so I think this encounter, while interesting, is actually one of Sky's probably weaker encounters in terms of airship matters. It doesn't quite command the same amount of sort of... I mean, definitely there's dread, but it doesn't command the same amount of momentum that the Hydra battle did. We're getting there, though. I'm very excited. Like, it sounds like I'm sedate and just sort of talking about the battle and talking about the strategy, but I am very excited to sort of move on and get into the right sort of spots for the last battle and things like that. Complete kit. X cannon. So we see, like, a turn like that burns through a ton of our spirit. New attack, though. So it's definitely very powerful. So you can see, like, we are at risk of, if we don't properly sort of strategize, of losing the battle, but it's just a matter of, like, okay, we know a big attack is coming, we build up all of this, drill's not gonna... It works? I had Increm. The sort of niceties of those two spells are somewhat lost on me, even this late into the playthrough. Which speaks something to the amount of competency or familiarity I have with the game, but it's still like, it shouldn't work out that way. At best, they should cancel each other out. I do like this attack, though. I do like the way it sort of ties back into the the Rains of Destruction, rather. Moons of Destruction, fitting enough as well, but it does a ton of damage. To do that against the Delphinus is not an insignificant sort of action. Unfortunately, here our damage is going to be reduced, which sort of, what's the term I'm looking for? Oh yeah, annoys the shit out of me. Although we're doing well on our pacing, so depending on how we do here, we might go through things. And you can see the closer we get here, bits of Zelos sort of fall off. Boom, boom, boom. So it's like I said, the game is always giving you a sort of a gauge of your progress. Which is nice. So I want to close in and finish this for good. Which basically just means getting myself in position for a little bit of some good stuff. Not POW. I was thinking of Pinta. I was like, if I use Pinta here, it negates all damage. But I can use Increm, which is sort of what I want to do. Sort of Increm a Moonstone Cannon. This is also just for my own benefit, to see if Increm sort of knocks off the effects of Drill. Yeah, so we made that mistake earlier, but I sort of wanted to confirm it. So this is going to be Moon Lament. Another very interesting looking ability, sort of firing up these energy spears. Say what we will about anything else, definitely the designers of this game understand how to make very dynamic attack animations and things like that, which really adds a life to the encounters. Alright, so we're so goddamn close. We just need to survive. I should have put a complete kit at the end of the round, Hopefully this isn't a huge fuck-up. Time will tell. I get nervous at moments like this because small miscalculations can end up costing you quite a bit. The evasive action will help, and I don't think we'll die, but it's scary. No, we're okay, but it's just, you feel it in your gut. A certain real genuine sense of dread. So we're getting there. We are getting there for sure. But we need to be careful for a minute and pull back and heal. And then the next round we'll be able to do some good stuff. Deluxe kit, don't want that. Magic shell. Barrier against magic attacks for 1 turn. That sounds sort of nice. Although actually we want focus. Just enough to get us that Moonstone Cannon edge. And we're only about 30 minutes in, which is nice, so I think what I will do is keep on going, plow through as much as I can. We're doing okay. And so long as we sort of hold strong during the next boss, and yes, there is one more encounter, I'm feeling pretty good. I just get excited. I've thought about this moment. I've thought, not necessarily about the Zelos fight, but I've thought about the end of this all for quite some time, and I started this in January? It sort of went from there, and it sort of consumed a lot of my time. You know. And it's probably consumed enough time from plenty of you. That is a poorly timed evasive action, unless it's going to really attack again now. But we need to close in and finish this for good. Let's do that on that first attack round. Heal just in case, and then if not, X-cannon the shit out of it. But I think we're good. This will be the end of Zelos. Strong feeling to the encounter, but still not one of my favorite Gigas. I think it has a very disconcerting feel to it, but not quite to the extent of what I would imagine. But we do okay here. Have some of those artifact boxes around it where the effects are taking place, but we made it through the battle. Does it give me a captain stripe? I think it does, but I can't use it. Yeah. It gives me a captain stripe, but there's nothing else after this next boss encounter. But we're gonna do this. I do like the way it falls apart, sort of into these ethereal shards. That has a real nice feel to it. Is it finally over, though? Uh-oh. This is amazing, and for a lot of this battle, I might actually just let the music play. I might not say anything during this fight. I will let it speak for itself. I think that might be a way to do it. But Ramirez, fused with Zelos. Here we go.
die.
We're gonna let this one speak for itself, ladies and gentlemen.
May righteousness be our shield. Shield of justice!
Let's try this! Let's try this!
This should work.
Let's try this.
Die.
Moons, give me strength! Ha!
Let's try this. Yeah! Must not lose.
Die.
Let's try this.
Alright, let's do this. It's time.
In dire need, the power
Of the ancients!
to battle our foe.
See you later, Ramirez. It was fun while it lasted. If you didn't realize what I was building up to after the 4th turn or so, man, it's worth it. We're done. Oh my gosh, no! Well, let's fall back to an old favorite, will we? Let's use the classic. And it's done. Fantastic.
We did it!
And this is it. This is the end of it all. Oh man. It's taken us a while. All that's left, the moon crystal. And Vise does something very kind here. Or a gesture. Return the body to the sky. A fitting end, I suppose, for Ramirez. Claimed by passion and everything else, it's nice that our hero wishes the villain to rest in peace. And really, we'll figure it out when the credits roll. I don't know what to say yet. I really don't. Again, this is an episode where we're letting things certainly speak for themselves. Nostalgia and more are overcoming me right now. It's good, though. It's like we said before. No matter what happens, everything's gonna be alright. I believe it, and I hope you do too. Since when did we need a reason to sail? We're still young. Who knows what kind of trouble we can still get into? I want to feel that way. And this is where I say again that these folks are a threesome. This feels like a trio that shares everything with each other. And there's something really great about that. I say great all the time, but I mean it here. And everybody sort of has their own conclusion, although we'll see more during the credits. Drachma's going to be a fisherman again. I want to live out the rest of my days in peace, out of respect for Jack. And for Rocknum. And Enrique returns to Valua to aid his people. These are heroes. All these folks are heroes. Spoiler alert, everybody. The good guys win. And that's great. I mean, it sounds so stupid, but the good guys win. Just sort of letting it breathe. Figuring out final sentiments is going to be difficult, and I hope I do so with grace. It's going to be tricky, though. And I hope you'll bear with me. I'll try to be succinct and take it from there. When the credits do roll, I hope that you pay attention to some of the things written in the background, but for now, we get to see a little bit more before our journey comes to a complete end. Enrique and Moegi get married. Uniting two peoples, east and west, which is pretty great. Nazarad rebuilt. It's simple, but it feels right. It feels good to get to this point. Valua is slowly going to be rebuilt into something better. And Fina, and Cupel too. Moving on to a new life. Look at Cupel. It's, makes me think of a lot of things. So, that's it. Journey comes to an end. I hope you'll allow me a moment to compose myself. Let's talk about some of the things that perhaps were shortcomings in this experiment. I think at times I minimized or dismissed certain issues with the game that might be construed as problematic. Whether this was due to a concern for convincing you all that this game is of the value that I feel it is, or more, I can't say. I think to an extent I was more forgiving of the cultural depictions in this game than I needed to be. I think that I spoke more authoritatively in this playthrough than perhaps I deserved to after so many years of not playing the game. I think at times I rambled. I think that's the price you pay for speaking from your heart. This was supposed to be an experience. This wasn't an exegesis on why this text is great. I don't even know if it's a great text. It's one that I find worthwhile. It's one that, excuse me, fills me with a hope that is a luxury to have in this day and age. And it is my greatest hope, to be redundant for a moment, that you find some form of comfort and peace in your life. Life isn't easy. It is scary, and often we feel alone. If you are watching this, I want you to know that you're not alone. Through whatever transitive property exists in creative work, I have left, hopefully, some imprint of myself upon you. Not that I think I am necessarily somebody of worth. But if you are watching this, you are my friend. And I will perhaps never meet you. But I hope I have shared something of worth to you. And I want you to know that you deserve happiness and joy. I want you to be brave. I want you to be audacious in all things. That is the message that I hope was sent. And I'm certainly emotional talking about this. You are valued, you are cherished. Heroes exist in this world. Happy stories can happen. And all we need to do is look up and make them happen. And I wish you the best of luck in everything you do. And I hope that the skies are always smooth sailing for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. I love you all. Goodbye.